المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير وآتينا موسى الكتاب وجعلناه هدى لبني إسرائيل ألا تتخذوا من دوني وكيلا ذرية من حملنا مع نوح إنه كان عبدا شكورا وقضينا إلى بني إسرائيل في الكتاب لتفسدن في الأرض مرتين ولتعلن علوا كبيرا فإذا جاء وعد أولاهما بعثنا عليكم عبادا لنا أولي بأس شديد فجاسوا خلال الديار وكان وعدا مفعولا ثم رددنا لكم الكرة عليهم وأمددناكم بأموال وبنين وجعلناكم أكثر نفيرا إن أحسنتم لأنفسكم وإن أسأتم فلها فإذا جاء وعد الآخرة ليسوءوا وليدخلوا المسجد كما دخلوه أول مرة وليتبروا ما علوا تتبيرا عسى ربكم أن يرحمكم وإن عدتم عدنا وجعلنا جهنم للكافرين حصيرا عسى ربكم أن يرحمكم وإن عدتم عدنا وجعلنا جهنم للكافرين حصيرا صدق الله العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome to this beautiful event tonight, talking about Gaza with two people who are native to Gaza, من غزة الأصل, and they are not new, they are from our community, mashallah, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Anwar and his father, Allah barik him, and the whole family. This is our wound that's bleeding, and it's been bleeding for the past over 120 days, almost 130 days now, and we see that the whole world sees with us what's going on, but we as Muslims and any human being, subhanAllah, watching what's happening in there is just heartbreaking. Now we don't want to get desensitized. This is going on, this is a life. We cannot even imagine what's going on right now. We cannot imagine the life under the bombardment in that little space. So we are here tonight, inshallah, to listen and talk about this and see what we can do as well to help them. And we just started reading the Quran, and right after the first few pages, Allah talked about these are the believers, these are the description of the non-believers, these are the hypocrites, this is your beginning, the story of Adam, and that's how it started. And right after that, he will jump straight to Ya Bani Israel, O children of Israel, Bani Israel. And for the next over 10 pages, Allah will talk about Bani Israel and their experiences with Musa alayhi salam, Bahu Baqarah, slaughter a cow, and back and forth, giving us an example of some people who will argue with Allah, will argue with the prophets, will kill prophets, will do all of these things for us as the ummah that will come at the end of time to look and learn. You don't want to be like that, and then you will give the next example, the example of Ibrahim, somebody who's totally the opposite, who submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's talk about what's going on in Gaza and listen firsthand to people who are from there. What is going on in Gaza right now? Sheikh Anwar and brother Abu Anwar.
Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, everybody's doing great tonight. I'm happy to be back here, seeing all the beautiful faces that I call real good friends, mashallah. We're gonna try to talk about personal experiences. So, and any questions you have, we are ready to answer. I'm ready to answer more about my own experiences. Obviously, we have family there. Still, immediate family for me, none of them are hurt, but cousins, second cousins, friends, neighbors, in-laws. I can personally name at least 50, 60 people that I know that, inshallah, shuhada and Rabbil Alameen. So, and it's a daily thing for us, you know, so it's almost, and it's like we are in a dream. And it's basically
Nightmare.
Well, nightmare, dream, whatever. And I personally, we have a home there. I was there in Gaza myself this last huddled there thinking I'm going to go visit more often and all that. Anyway, it's still standing, the building, ours, but unfortunately, like my cousins, it's gone. My sister's building is gone. She lost everything, nothing. And many others, you know, I have nieces, cousins, other relatives. Our own building that I own, we own it. It's been bombed a few times, you know, here and there. It's still standing, so we figure it's okay. We can fix it if the time comes. And it's right next to Shifa Hospital. All you heard about Shifa Hospital very long. And it's basically between us and the Shifa Hospital is one street, about 10 meters. So it was very crucial. My family evacuated the second day of the war. They got a phone call, we're gonna bomb it. And they all ran. So they haven't been back since then. They've been out since October 9th and still haven't been back. And some of them moved 6, 7, 8 times.
Inside Gaza.
Inside Gaza, yes, inside the city, then outside to the middle area, then to the south, then in the south itself. Right now, a sister, a brother, they were living in tents for the last month and a half or so. We were trying to get them out to go to Egypt. We succeeded in about, my sister and one brother, we succeeded in getting them out. In fact, as I speak right now, my brother is in the Sinai, you know, desert right now. He's in a car with his wife and his children going to Cairo. He's been living in a tent, and he was displaced, I think it was 6 or 7 times. So he has a 6th son. He didn't want to leave. We pressured him, no, I'm not leaving, no, I'm not leaving. So finally, we just said, you're out, we're gonna put your names down, and we don't care. So, and so he prayed istikhara, and alhamdulillah, he's on the way out. But we still have some more. I have another brother there, and nephews and all that. I'm just trying to give you a small window into what's going on, you know, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions that we will answer, inshallah. The situation, like you've seen it on TV, it's exactly like that, even worse, because it's not only the killing, it's the starvation, the slow starvation. They're cutting food, supplies, everything. And if it comes in, then there's abuse. Then there's people that abuse it, you know, and then they sell it for double, triple, quadruple the price that it was original. And I was talking to my brother a few days ago, and we were talking about meat. You know, somebody asked me to sacrifice aqiqah. He said, he was telling me he hasn't tasted meat in 4 months himself, you know. It's not like he doesn't have the money. They do, but there isn't. It's scarce or it's very expensive. So, you know, for us here, we have family, so it's a day to day, minute to minute. The first couple of months, I was waking up 3, 4, 5 times a night, checking my phone. It was stressful, too stressful. You know, blood pressure goes up, you cannot control it with all the medicine and, you know, all that stuff. So, but we always say alhamdulillah, and like they say over there, hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel, we all say that too. And it's, I think they are sovereign, they're all sovereign, the majority are. Everybody has a different tolerance level. Some people, they can tolerate it for 2, 3 weeks, some 2, 3 months, some 2, 3 years. Nobody's the same. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna say if he has something to say.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wa sallallahu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala amma ba'd. We're honored to be here. Thank you for inviting us back. You know, Panama City, for a while it was a home, you know, because my parents were here. A part of them is still here, I know. So alhamdulillah, it's wonderful to be here. And inshallah, all the people that we know and friends and acquaintances.
Get the mic closer.
Now, so with the issue, with what's going on in Gaza, same thing. We were just talking about. Obviously, this is my father. For those who don't know, most of you know this already. Alhamdulillah. Like he said, we would be checking, we have a family WhatsApp group, which is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing is you get to check up on the family, a curse because you feel the most helpless when you see that they need help and there's nothing you can do about it. You're calling out. So a few weeks into the war, one of my cousin's wife was getting messages from her family from under the rubble. So their house got hit. They're under the rubble, but she still has access to her phone, and she's calling, somebody come help us. She's texting, somebody come help us, and we got those messages. Is anybody nearby there? Can you guys get the fire department, the civil services, the civil defense department, family, to go there? So first off, they don't have any heavy equipment, so they can't even lift. They're using manual equipment, shovels, their bare hands to pull people out. You guys have seen the pictures. Is anybody nearby? Can anybody go? Nobody can go. It's a very dangerous area. Nobody can go there. Even the civil defense, once they got the phone, they said we can't go. And so the lady is texting. Her phone stayed until the phone died, and eventually that girl died. But she was able to text from under the rubble. This is not an isolated case. There's been many cases like this. And you're reading these texts live. I'm sitting here in my comfortable bed in Memphis, and you're just looking at this, and the feeling of despair and helplessness has been the most I've ever experienced in my life in the last 4 months. This is just me personally. I'm not talking about what they're going through. I'm just talking about of course it's very selfish for me to talk about this, but I'm kind of giving you guys an idea into what the past 4 months have been like. With the family hearing that they had to evacuate our house. And you're seeing the messages, is everybody out? Everybody leave? Everybody knows where we're going. They have to disperse, by the way, our family from the family building. When they evacuated to different places. The reasoning was, if one of them goes to a place that gets hit, the entire family doesn't die. Because this has happened. Entire families in Gaza have been wiped off the registration, the books. Meaning the entire family, the last name no longer exists. And they didn't want that to happen to our family. So literally, my uncle Islam, he would send one son here, one son here, one son here, one daughter here, just so that his whole family doesn't die. And they would stay like this for weeks at a time. And then at the end, they were like, "Khalas, everybody, we're going to stay together." So my uncle Islam, his family, my uncle Anis, and my uncle Iyad, and then eventually they got together in a place. They were fortunate enough that they have a piece of land in which one of my uncles built some rooms, not even a full house, some rooms. And so there's 3 rooms in this one? 3 rooms, a piece of land, some trees, 40 people to 3 rooms, 1 bathroom. And they were the more fortunate because they weren't in a tent. And they lived like that for almost a month and a half, 2 months. They were living there until it got too dangerous. They literally bombed right next to them, again next to them on the other side. They were like, "Us, we're just counting the days. It's going to be us. We have to leave." They evacuated that place again. They've been evacuating, so going to Rafah now. And you guys know this. Almost the entire population of the Gaza Strip is in Rafah in tents. The size of Rafah, to give you guys an idea, is the same size as Heathrow International Airport in London. You guys know an airport. The entire Rafah area, not just the city, but the entire area is as big as an airport here in the West, and it has 1.4 million people living in tents, and they still want to go in and cause destruction. And it just shows you the bloodthirstiness, the cheapness of any life other than theirs. And this idea that Palestinians are cheap. One of the things, we met with some of our interfaith partners. I'm sure you guys have interfaith, events here. So I met with one of them and I said, what really hurts is how cheap. I told him this and he looked at me and said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Nobody bats an eye. You see in the news 200 Palestinians die every day. Nobody cares. Why is our blood so cheap?" He was speechless. He couldn't say anything. He's the pastor of a church. He's like, "Yeah, you're right." And it's not about the numbers. And one life is valuable. It doesn't matter. One innocent life is valuable. The idea is this war has done a lot to expose the hypocrisy that exists, the double standards that exist, the inherent racism that exists, the inherent bigotry that a lot of people hold. So even though they'll tell you, I'm your friend, to your face, but there's an underlying bigotry and animosity that's hidden that we've known for a while. And after that, these types of things, these tests and tribulations are meant to expose people's true colors. This, and it has been, by the way, it's been showing us who our friends are, it's been showing us who the traitors are, the people who betray us, the people who stab us in the back, the people who have a good talk but they're no zero action, the people that have no action but they want to help, the people that are very sincere that if they could do something they would and they do. And there's a lot of things that we can do and we'll talk about that at the end, inshallah ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us with that.
I would just like to get back to what Zed said. To live with and try to visualize and understand the situation right there. From my experience, I was shocked by this sister who sent me a question. She came to know about me through a community member here, one of the sisters here. They were looking for any shaykh to answer their questions. And what are the questions? This question that came to me from this sister, a pharmacist in Gaza. She's asking me, Shaykh, I go to the pharmacy and I leave when it's dark at night, late at night. And now, because of how many bodies are in the streets and pieces of humans in the streets, the dogs have eaten so many human flesh. بتقول لي like الكلاب الوحش. That's in her own. الكلاب الوحش. They become like, I don't know now. You know, I'm afraid that they will attack one of the kids or one of the humans. Is it okay to kill the dogs? Because they ate so many human flesh that now they can attack the humans. And don't think about that question, what is the answer? But think about where she's coming from. Like living in these conditions, no water, nothing. And is it okay to touch an animal like that or hurt an animal like this? This is her question. SubhanAllah. Because she's asking because they have really eaten many human beings and now we are afraid that they might attack us and the problem is with the rabies that it can, right? We are afraid that it can, once they start attacking humans, we don't have any access to any of these vaccines and stuff. This is what they are going through. So you were there and your family is there. What else is going on and how is their life right now?
I have one of my friends, and he's related to us, really good man. I was telling you earlier the story about him. He moved so many times inside the city of Gaza. He's the head of a charitable organization. He's the head of a charitable organization. So he was in charge of a shelter, which is a school. So he was basically trying to feed about 3,000 people on a daily basis. So this guy, his house got hit, so he had to run. So he moved away and then moved again. So he had a lot of money still for that shelter. So he decided he wanted to go back to that area to give the money to somebody so they can still feed those 3,000 plus people. So my nephew and his son, they decided to take the trip back, which is maybe about, I would say 2 miles walking, 2.5 miles walking. So they did, and they got to an area where there was some snipers sitting there, and they shot at them. The kids, the 2 young kids, my nephew and his son, they were fast enough. He wasn't, he's mid-50s. So he got hit. He didn't die, he got hit. So he's laying on the ground. So his son decided to go out and try to drag his father like they do. So his son went there and they shot his son. So his son got hit in the leg and they shot at him again, so they killed him. So his son, the father is dead now and the son is injured. So the son went back hiding behind the wall with my nephew. So they didn't know what to do. Every time they pee, there's bullets come. So he's bleeding, so they told his family, there's no cars obviously inside the city of Gaza, so they had to send a donkey cart, what we call, I would say. So they sent it, and it took 15-20 minutes to get there. They called him on the phone, they came by, and now they figured if they drag him, they can carry him on this car and then take him back, bury him or whatever. So this donkey guy comes, he has a 10-year-old child with him. So he tells his son to look and see if he can see the snipers. As a young kid, maybe he can sneak or something. His son looks and he tries and he shoots the kid, 10-year-old. Now we have 2 dead people. The kid is dead, but he's close enough that they can drag him. They have an injured guy and they couldn't move. So the only thing they can do is, this kid is bleeding, his son is about to die. So they took him and they left the dad for 1 week. He was in the same spot for 1 week. And after they heard, when they said that they withdrew from that area, some of you might know the area, there's a Masjid Palestine, it's an area where Masjid Palestine is called. I've prayed there many times. It's a big mosque, mashallah. It's probably, I would say, at least 4,000 or 5,000, 3,000 maybe square meters. Anyway, so a week later they came back when they were through, and they found that they obviously, a week on the ground. I don't need to describe what has happened to his body. They took him and they buried him, and it was a week later. And that's one of the stories. And this guy, I know personally, is a very, very good man. I mean, mashallah, he was a head of a church organization, like I said, it's called Friends of Hospitals organization. So he was, what he was doing, he was bringing aid, anything to hospitals in the whole area. That was his job. So that's just one story, and there's multiple stories like that every day, obviously. You will see it and know that.
So I think we can talk about this the whole night, what's going on, but now with the news and the pictures, it's at our palms now that we see what's going on and we know what's going on in real time. And it's heartbreaking. Now the real question, or the important question is, what can we do? What in the world that we can do right now? From an Islamic perspective, from a Shari'i perspective, what can we do as an ummah, as a community? And also, what kind of actions, in your opinion, that we can take to possibly help them? So if I may start with Sheikh Anwar, from an Islamic perspective, feeling helpless, but what can we do?
Bismillah. So, first thing is dua. It's not the last thing, it's the first thing. And a lot of people think that, that's such a defeatist mentality, right? Just dua. No, we start with dua because dua shapes our mindset and our mentality. Everything else follows. Because if we don't have the idea of tawakkul, reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever comes later is futile. Does this make sense? I hope you're so glad that this makes sense. I'll give you guys an example. A lot of Muslims sit around and say, okay, khalas, what we'll do is I'll become religious, and once, inshallah, all of us become religious, Allah's going to send us somebody like Salahuddin, and He's going to liberate it, and khalas, we're going to be over. Right? Who here believes that, by the way? Nobody? Okay, good, alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to send Salahuddin from the heavens to help you out or to help liberate Palestine. That's not how it happens. That's not how it happened. Even Salahuddin himself had to learn a valuable lesson. A lot of people might not know this. Salahuddin, who liberated Jerusalem during the Crusades, was actually unsuccessful in the early times of his leadership. He waged a battle north of Gaza in Palestine against the Crusades, easily 25 years before he eventually liberated Jerusalem, about 20 years before. Okay? This battle, the Muslims actually outnumbered the Crusades, and outnumbered them by a lot. They were at least double the Crusaders. The Muslims were outnumbering them. They're walking into this thinking, khalas, we got this. We got it in the back. We're going to be fine. And as soon as they go into the battle, terrible defeat. It was so bad that they weren't able to wage another war for at least a few You never, as Muslims, you never were victorious because of your numbers, or because of your preparation, or because of your weapon. None of that actually. Can anybody name a battle during the time of the Prophet ﷺ where the Prophet and his companions, the peace and blessings be upon the Prophet ﷺ, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with his companions, where they were ever outnumbering their enemy? Can we name one battle? La. Not even Hunayn. Hunayn is the example. But in Hunayn, they got the number close. It was the closest they ever were. There were more than 10,000. كثرتكم بس ليس بالنسبة للعدو كثرتهم بالنسبة للمعارك التي قبلها. كان العدو أكثر منهم الضعف. لكن في بدر وغيرها كانوا أصلا أضعاف. قالوا بس الضعف خلاص معناته احنا هنسهل. يعني كان الصحابة حوالي 13,000 والمشركون أيامهم كانوا 24,000. Yeah, I'm translating for him just so that he understands the point because he asked the question. He's saying, what about the Battle of Hunayn? The Battle of Hunayn, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used that example, أعجبتكم كثرتكم, that you were impressed with your large numbers. By the way, up until that point, it was the largest army that the Prophet ﷺ ever amassed. Only later outnumbered by Jaysh al-Usra and all these other things. But at the time, it was around 13,000, 1250, some people, writers of the Seerah, 13,000. Let's say it was 13,000. He said 13,000, some of the companions said, لَن نُغْلَبَ الْيَوْمَ مِنْ قِلَّةٍ. We're not going to be defeated because of our low number. But here's the thing, they were facing an enemy that was estimated at 24,000. So they were less than double. And this is why the companions felt, khalas, we got this. Because when we waged the battle of Badr, we were outnumbered 3-1. And Uhud, same thing, 3-1. And all these other battles, those with Ahzab, there were 10,000 and there's only 2,000 fighters in Medina, 5-1. But in every single one, they were victorious. Well, not every single one, but you guys get the idea. Now they're like, wow, they're not even double our number? Khalas, we got this. So they were still didn't outnumber them. And by the way, early in the battle, they were defeated, but later the Prophet was able to rally the troops and they got together and they got out of the ambush. They were ambushed. The point being, Muslims were never victorious because of their numbers or because of the preparation. They were always victorious because of the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And until we understand this, we're never going to get out of that mindset and mentality. We're never going to get out of the situation that we are in. Number one, like I said, he learned a very valuable lesson from that time. That's why after this, there were a lot of tactics, there were a lot of strategies, and it took time. It's not going to happen overnight. But it starts with dua, because until we shape our hearts and our minds around this idea of attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing else is going to work. This is why we start with dua, we don't end with it. Right? We start with this idea of attaching ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and understanding. This is not the end, by the way. A lot of people think that, khalas, okay, I became religious shit, I started praying, I'm learning, and now what? After this, everything else starts. You need to resist in whatever you can. You use your words, you use your connections, you use your influence. We live in America. Is America complicit in the crimes that are happening now? Yes, absolutely. We're funding it. Without the funds from America, the Zionist entity would not exist. Correct? So that means we have an added responsibility over people from any other place in the world to actually try to stop this injustice. And since we're citizens of this country, we can vote, we can influence, we can talk to our politicians, we can call them, email them, message them. Wallah, it does add pressure. If you look after every major demonstration, after every major thing, it's affecting what people are seeing. Now the politicians are being very careful. When their vote is threatened, and people like Biden realize that, oh, I might lose the vote, the swing states, in Michigan, and Ohio, and Pennsylvania, and Florida, and all these places, he's now thinking about how can we appease the Muslim community, and they're trying to. And the Muslims have been standing their ground for the most part, telling them, look, until you end this genocide, until you stop the bloodshed, forget about our vote. That makes a big difference. We have to do what we can. But it starts, like I said, I think step number one is that attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing can change unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitates that change. This is first and foremost. And the dua, like I said, is not a defeatist idea. It's actually the first, it's the middle, it's the last. that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on our side. And the people of Gaza see it. They know it. You see them, their resilience, and how they're standing in face of the occupation, or standing in face of the Zionists. And they know, after even losing everything, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is sufficient for me, and He's the best for Iran. That's the idea. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us with that as well. Yeah, can I, one thing? Somebody asked me the other day, said, we heard a fatwa, which is, it's not correct, but anyways, it's correct for their place, not for ours. It's a fatwa that says demonstrating is haram. I told him, look, if I lived in that country, I probably wouldn't demonstrate either. But in America, demonstrating is your fundamental right. In the First Amendment, the Constitution of this country, you have the right to assemble, you have the right to protest, you have the right to free speech. You have all these rights and you can exercise them. You have that right to choose to exercise them. So don't pay attention to this. Number two, a person says, okay, let's say I demonstrated. The news didn't cover it. True, but did the politicians see it? Yes. Do you think they're ignoring it? No, they're not. When they see the demonstration, 300,000 people show up to Washington, D.C. Okay, those are 300,000 people that are definitely not going to vote for us. They're not going to be on our side unless we try to. They're going to do a million things about it. Some of the new politicians that entered Congress, I don't know what's her name, had the Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia. She tweeted about the demonstration that happened in D.C. and how she was upset that they were on the Congress's lawn instead of the one that we went to. And she made a rookie mistake, by the way, which is what? Acknowledging the protest. Every other politician didn't even acknowledge it, because in acknowledging it, you give it power. She acknowledged it because she wanted to point out the fact that these guys are Muslims or anti-Semitic or whatever. She had her own agenda, but she's not a politician. She's just an instigator. The actual politicians avoided even mentioning it, because in mentioning it, they give it power. Because now the people who protested realized, hey, they noticed us. They actually saw us. They knew what would happen. Because if I know that they're seeing us, I'm going to protest even more. It's going to motivate me. But when I think that I was invisible, nobody saw it, nobody cared, I'm not going to do it anymore. But then I told one brother, I said, look, if the only thing you get out of the protest is that the people of Gaza see you, isn't that enough? Let's say a person who's living right now in a tent in Gaza, and he's thinking about all those Muslims that are outside of Gaza, right? In their comfortable homes, air conditioned, whatever, heated, whatever, and they're eating food and they have all these things. What are they doing for me? Did they leave their home at least? Did they go and at least express their anger? And when he sees, oh yeah, they did. They sacrificed a little bit just to make their voices heard. And if that comforts him, wallahi, to me that's enough of a reason to go and protest. To show at least the people in Gaza, hey, I'm with you. I sacrificed my Sunday afternoon to go and stand up for you, not for the media, not for anybody else, but for you, to show you that I'm on your side. I think that's enough in my book. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I said that's enough. And wallahi, I've been told this by people that we know in Gaza. They said, wallahi, you have no idea how much joy we feel when we see the images of the people protesting on our behalf. Because at least they let us know that they're not going to sit idly by and just pretend as if life goes on. Something has to fundamentally change. Life can't continue to go on as is. And let's put that help us and guide us.
And subhanAllah, just as humans, it makes us really, it's shameful to see majority of people who are protesting and rising, and it's happening in a constant basis. It's taking place, in Britain, in all of these European countries, and here in the States, and in Canada, and elsewhere. The people are standing up just for humanity. They are speaking up. Us as humans, what can we do? Yes, we can do very little, but at least stand up and speak against it. If you see something that's munkar, then you can at least stand up and speak against it. فَمَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ. Try to change the munkar. If you cannot do it by action, then at least speak against it. And this, what the Shaykh is trying to say, here in this country, you can say it. Speak up. And it's not going to start with majority, Unless we have majority and we will make a decision to get to that majority, you have to start. It has to start low in here. So we really need to do what we
we can, inshallah, Azza wa Jalla, together. Is there anything practical other than, making the dua, beginning with the dua, finishing with the dua, demonstrating, calling the representatives, do what we can, what else? Is there anything that you can think of practically?
He said in dua first. Second, obviously everybody has the power these days of social media, and that's been the biggest fight. Some estimates put like there's 110 billion posts pro or for Palestine and Gaza, and there's only like about maybe 8 or 7 billion pro Zionists. So this is a huge thing. The media here, we know it's biased. They've been biased for a long time, and we don't have much hope. Yeah, lately they've been changing slightly, but we're not going to count on them. We need to count on us. Young people do not watch TV anymore. Young people go to the sources and they look for the news themselves. And social media is very powerful. And that's why I encourage all the young people to keep going and don't stop, don't slow down. Now, if you can do more than that, yes, assemble, do something against the politicians that are complicit in this. Local government, Congress, Senate, whoever, we all know that they are all bought and sold by the APACs and all the Israeli and Zionists. They support them with a lot of money. We could do something. We're not small. In this community and every other community in this country, there's a lot of Muslims. But we need to unite and gather and support each other. And for the leaders, there's some people that have experience. They have done this before. Follow them and listen to them. Register to vote. Vote. Don't just register. Vote. Basically punish these guys that did not stand with us. Punish them. And that's my feeling is I don't care who wins.
Punish them by voting.
By voting against them. Okay? Guess what? Everybody else will know that I didn't vote for you because you didn't support me. The other guy, I don't care. He could be a bad guy too, but then he will take notice that I got this guy out of office. So I voted against him. Not for him, but I voted against him. So we need to keep that in mind and do that and basically everybody get involved, Small community like this could really sway the vote. In any big city in the United States, there's a lot of Muslims. We just need to unite, we need to gather.
So to add on to this, two more pieces of advice, that come to mind right now. One is to not lose the forest for the trees. What do we mean by this? So a lot of people focus on certain incidents, certain days, hyper-focus, right? October 7th. Forgetting the forest. The Palestinian struggle is part of the larger struggle of the Ummah, number one. It's not an isolated issue. Of course, we isolate it just to study it, but it's not isolated, number one. It's part of the struggle of the Ummah, number one. Number two, this has been going on for over 100 years. It didn't start in October 7th. It didn't start 17 years ago with the siege on Gaza. It didn't start in 1967 or in 1948. And it didn't even start in the Balfour Promise in 1917. Right? He was the foreign minister of Great Britain, and he promised Palestine to the Jews, even though he was anti-Semite himself. He just wanted to get rid of the Jews out of Britain, by the way, in 1917. The struggle didn't even start then. It was in the 1800s, the 1880s and 90s when Zionism was born. And even then, it was part of this whole struggle against the West. In terms of colonial power, trying to occupy our lands, and they did. Almost every Muslim country has been colonized. And this idea of colonization still exists. And this is one of the last ones that are there. So to isolate it into this, they have a plan to get rid of all Palestinians. The plan has been written since 1948 or even before. So for us to think that, this whole thing was instigated on October 7th is false. That's why I say don't ignore, don't look at the trees, look at the whole picture. That's why for Palestinians, they know this, they see it. They're like, we've been doing this for a long time. There's been war after war after war on the people of Gaza and the people in the West Bank. This last year, 2023, 300 Palestinians were killed in the West Bank before October 7th. It was the deadliest year for the West Bank in 15 years. Settlers have been burning down entire villages and going in and doing all these things. But because of the news coverage, because even us, we're distracted, we're not connected well with one another, we don't know what's going on, we kind of ignore these things. And so my piece of advice is to look at always connect it, how does this connect to the big picture of the Ummah and its struggle, and not hyper-focus. Then number two, utilize in your conversations with people the power of showing and exposing their own double standard. I'll give you guys an example. So, I was in Tampa, Florida. You guys know Tampa, right? It's not too far from here. Tampa, Florida. I was giving a khutbah there. And I gave the first khutbah at the University, USF, University of South Florida in Tampa. And they pray mashallah on campus. There's so many Muslim students there that there's not a single room on campus that can fit them. So they pray outside in the amphitheater, and wallahi, no exaggeration, I can show you guys a picture. There's at least 300 Muslim students that pray Jumu'ah. These are just students. So they prayed outside. The university itself comes and they install a sound system, and they're there actively playing DJ, like to fix the audio while I'm giving the khutbah, because they're not Muslim, but he's making sure that the sound is okay. This is a university. I was super impressed, mashallah. Non-Muslims come and attend the khutbah, and they told me this before the khutbah. They said some non-Muslims come every khutbah. I thought it's fine. I'm not saying anything that needs to be hidden. And I mentioned Gaza. We talked about it a little bit during the khutbah. And there's a pastor there that was sitting, Pastor Lee. And he says, I've been an on-campus pastor, of course he's a missionary, he gives his own proselytizing for Christianity, especially targets the Muslims. So he's sitting there, he listens to the khutbah, and they told me afterwards, like, man, this guy, Pastor Lee, every khatib, he'll go up to and he'll hold him hostage and try to talk to him for 20 minutes. But they said, with you, Anwar, he left. He didn't stay for 20 minutes. And they said, what did you ask him? What did you tell him? Like, because he walked away. And I said, ask him 2 questions. Yeah, and we don't need to, remember, we do the da'wah workshop, we teach people how to do da'wah. So we teach you how to be efficient in your da'wah as well. So the guy comes up and tells me, he introduces himself, he shows me his phone, he's like, I was taking notes, and he shows me the notes. Man, this guy copied my khutbah. Word for word almost. And he was writing, I'm like, wow, that's incredible. Like, those notes are better than mine about the khutbah. He's writing notes, and he says, my only issue with your khutbah, Imam, is that when you talked about Gaza, I wanted you to be more balanced and fair. I said, tell me, what do you mean by this? He said, you mentioned it like it was just, one-sided, that the Palestinians were victims. But weren't there victims on the Israeli side? What happened October 7th and this? Like, this and this? I said, can I ask you one question? He said, yes. I said, when you, Pastor Lee, when you talked about World War II and what Hitler did and Nazism, do you portray it as 2 sides? Absolutely not. Hitler was pure evil. I said, exactly. There's no 2 sides here. And you can see it and you know it. And he got quiet. He realized what I said. He didn't argue anymore. Close. We're done. So then he moves on. He says, so I'm just here. I tell people about how Jesus Christ died for their sins. And I want to talk to the larger ummah. So he's using these Arabic words. And I want to teach them about, this. And that the real sunnah is this. He's using all these. I'm like, man, this guy knows. So he's telling me about how Jesus Christ is very important for him. Okay, very good. Nice. So I asked him, and he continues on. Are you done? Yes. So I said, it sounds like to me from just hearing you've been studying Islam for a long time. How long have you been studying Islam? He said, over 25 years. And I've been having these conversations with Muslims for about 20 years now. I'm coming to campus. I said, very good. Can I ask you a question? He said, yes. I said, so you've been studying Islam now for 20 years. What's stopping you from becoming Muslim? Why did I ask this question? What is this question, by the way? Is this an invitation? Is this an invitation for him to become Muslim? Yes. No, it is. What's stopping you? And I'm actually technically inviting him to become Muslim. Why am I inviting him? Is there anything that I, in 5 minutes, can tell him about Islam that he hasn't heard already? Probably not. So I'm going to waste my time in his. Number 2, you know what he said? Nobody has ever asked me this question. In his 20 years, nobody has actually ever invited him to become Muslim. They've only debated him. They've only had conversations with him, trying to prove him wrong. So we're skipping all of this. We don't need that. I said something very simple. What's stopping you? Like if you know all this about Islam and you're clearly coming to our footballs every Friday, there's something good that you know that's here. And I told him this. I said, you know that there's something good in Islam. He said, Islam actually is very good. There's a lot that I agree with. Now he's opening up. He's changed his whole chismo. But he said, you know, this idea that Jesus died for our sins, this, you know, my conscience can't abandon that. But I said, you know that it's logically flawed. Well, no, and this. I said, no, it is. You know this. And I know that you know this. And this is why you keep on coming back. But I said, I want you to think about this. What's stopping you from becoming Muslim? I said, okay, good day to you, sir. He left. And they said, Sheikh, we've never seen that. Because usually we have to like grab the Muslim and walk him away. I said, because nobody invited him. By the way, this is not a secret. This is not my secret. The Prophet ﷺ used to skip the chase. Sometimes we look at his da'wah, and it was very direct. He would go to the people and he would say, what? قُولُوا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ تُفْلِحُوا. That's it. He's not even, there's no beating around the bush. He's literally telling them, say La ilaha illallah and you will be successful. Why? Because the people understood La ilaha illallah, what it means. They were idol worshippers, and he's telling them to worship only one. That's it. You keep it simple and you invite them. And nobody in early Islam accepted except for that small group that came from Medina. And they said, tell us more about this. And eventually he says, I'm going to come to Medina with you, and the rest is history.
Sheikh Anwar, if you don't mind me, I'd like to take a few questions, inshallah, from the audience, from the brothers here. And if we can keep it to just maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute. Do you mind?
Yes.
Can somebody help? Let's take the microphone.
It's okay, I will speak. First, thank you for this speech. I appreciate it more than the khutbah. The one who was sitting next to me here, I thought it's you, and I was asking, why are you concerned about da'wah? You want everybody to be Muslim? It's not going to happen. It's always this fight between Muslim, haq, and batil. And I would like to hear more about Gaza. He told me I am from Syria. I'm not from Gaza. I would like to, I think he's gone. But the one who said that we are wide from the record, we are the one who's staying. We are the one who will be wide from the record. Unless you do something. No. And if you want to make da'wah, go make da'wah to Ibn Salman or the prince. Or make da'wah to Zayd. This will make a difference. يعني الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام كان يدعو الناس في مكة كرشوه. كرشوه. لما رجع فتح مكة بقى يخشوا في دين الله أفواجا. فيعني
No. But remember, he couldn't go back to Mecca until he gave da'wah in Medina. And the people of Medina accepted. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help and assist our brothers and sisters to and alleviate their difficulties soon, Ya Rabbi Alameen. It's all connected, it's interrelated. This is not, we don't sacrifice one for the other. We do whatever we can. Remember, we don't convert anybody. صح؟ إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء. You don't guide those who you love, but it is Allah who guides whoever He wills. The thing is, when He says, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbik," you need the call. That means it's an obligation to the Prophet and by us, to us by extension. We have to call in our own capacity. كل على حدة, كل بما استطاع. Everybody in what he can. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. لماذا؟ تأمرون بالمعروف تنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. الأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر هما يعني أفرع الدعوة. You were the best nation brought forth to mankind because you enjoy the good and you forbid the evil and you believe in Allah. Now it should be you believe in Allah first, because nothing can happen unless you believe in Allah. But He put it last because in terms of the Ummah, all the Ummah believed in Allah. But we were the best Ummah as Muslims because we enjoyed the good and forbid rid of evil, this is da'wah, this is inviting people to that which is best.
Allah is good. This has as many questions as possible.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I have two questions. Did you hear about the using artificial intelligence?
No.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
My second thing is a comment on Ayman voting for Trump. It's just
Did he say his name?
he said vote against Trump. Trump is a disaster. It's better to vote, not to vote, for vote or vote by.
Independent.
That's what I think. Because if you put.
Jazakallah khair. We're still voting about the two questions.
He's right.
Get the mic. Once the question is done, get the mic. Move on to somebody else. Please.
Obviously now
Take the
there has
mic.
been some reports about the Zionist army, they're using artificial intelligence to choose their targets. They've talked about that before, and it's how bad it is and how random. And I've seen a report saying that they see the targets of the AI, and then a guy decides in 20 seconds that this is okay, this is not, this is okay, this is not. 20 seconds, he goes through. So for them, our lives are not worth much.
Yes.
And it's not just any people, Palestinian lives, trust me, it's everybody else.
By the way, you guys know the use of AI is not new for them. The pioneers of AI have been Muslim from Israel. You guys know ChatGPT? Anybody here use it? OpenAI. The CEO is a Zionist, and a lot of the companies based out of Israel also. So they've been in that arena for a very long time. It helps them calculate how many civilian casualties might be in a certain building versus another, and they evaluate this. So even they know that there are civilian casualties, but with the use of AI, we can determine if it's less, this one is less, this one is more. It's all, Allah Ta'ala.
Nobel Prize, Nobel, unless you think
Push, you push these agendas. In terms of voting, هذا محل اجتهاد. Ultimately, this is an ijtihadi issue. Obviously, you make a very good argument. Someone else could make a very good argument. هذا محل اجتهاد. This is not a complaint, and it's up for change. Muslim. I think right now Biden is losing his faculties. Probably by the summer, they're going to replace him with someone else. I don't think he'll be able to.
Allah is good. Next question, if you don't mind, Allah is good.
South Africa Court, International Court, issued ruling that to accuse Israel by
War crimes. Genocide, yes.
Can we build on this? Can we do something?
It's something. Is it the all? Do we put all of our, like they said, eggs in one basket? No, but it's something. It's one egg. Go ahead. He's asking about ICJ. The ICJ, the rulings, can we depend on this? It's not that we depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we do our best in all these different areas, and this is one of them.
Okay, if you don't mind, inshallah, only the person with the microphone can claim it, and we will have 2 or 3 more questions, just for the sake of questions.
Assalamu alaikum, this is for Imam Anwar, inshallah. About your brother that left to Egypt. First question, how did he leave? Because I know the borders closed. Did he have to pay to leave? And the other question I have, you said you have your home in Palestine. Are you worried that, what happened to everybody else in northern Palestine, they couldn't go back to their homes, they were taken. Are you worried about that?
Yes. Give me the questions. Yes.
Any sisters?
Yes, my brother, he did have to pay, and we paid. He couldn't because somebody we have to pay from outside the country, so we did pay. Before him, we got my mother out. My mother is 82, 83 years old. We got her out like a month and a half ago, but we got her through the State Department. The State Department put her name on the order and we let her out, so there was no money involved. Her and my sister-in-law, my brother we did. That's one question. The other one was about homes. Now, our home, well, like I said, they evacuated it, and eventually, at one time when we came to a Shifa hospital, everybody was watching it live, one of the videos I remember watching, they were trying to show that they found a tunnel, they found, so part of the video is I can see our house, and then we stopped it, and there was like a parking lot with tanks in front of our building, and in fact there were some cars, and they like smushed them, and some of them pushed them in the building. There's some shops, and they pushed them in there. So, and one of my nephews made it to the building later, and he found they ransacked our apartments. There's a picture of my brother. I have a brother, he's a shaheed from 15 years ago or so. We had a picture of him. They, obviously busted it, ripped it. We have pictures of Al-Aqsa, Masjid Al-Aqsa, they broke it. Couches ripped, things, normal things like that, which is, just destruction, which is, I told them, when our building was shelled a couple of times from here and Learmont, and I said, at least it's still standing. My sister's building is gone, my nephews, my cousins. So I said, later on that our building, people were evacuated from the north part, and they came in, they started coming back. We had people living in our building, So
Family evacuated.
there's nobody there, so people were desperate, it's cold, so they went in and they're living in our apartments, mine, my brother's, this, that. We have no idea what happened. Anyway, so then I saw it on Al Jazeera Live. They bombed the building again, our building, the top roof, and then that to scare everybody up. So everybody started running and they evacuated those people that we don't even know, obviously. They evacuated, but just give you a smoke.
How about the people in West Bank? How come we didn't hear anything about them? Or what they do actually there? And what the Israeli does to their
Well,
West Bank?
the West Bank is every day there's something going on. But because it's a big thing happening here in Gaza, you don't really hear about the other thing that's happening. Today there was a big attack somewhere in Israel or something like that. Every day there's something. There's martyrs there, mashallah, shuhada, every other day. And because the matter here is so huge and there's hundreds dying, so when there's 5, 10 dying here, nobody really gonna pay attention. But it's been going on for a long time. And they have a different situation because they have the PA, Palestinian Authority, that's really not doing a good job because they don't have any power. And so they are in a really, really tough situation.
Do we have any questions on the sister side? Any question here? Any last question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Sheikh Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, Jazakumullah khair for the lecture. I just was wondering, what organizations do you suggest that are trustworthy, that you think can actually get supplies to them, that we can donate to? Because we see online a lot of different ones.
I think the organization and the brothers here been helping life. I think it's good. They're doing a good job. I usually look for an organization that doesn't cost much. They don't have a lot of administration fees. Some of them, they can go up as high as 20-30%, and which is not fair. If you get it down to 5 or below 10, that would be great. Some of them, they don't have much. And that would be the best way to do it. Investigate, talk, ask questions, and
Any specific names you suggest?
Well, we've helped, there's an organization called PAMA. I myself helped them, or we tried to fundraise for them. It's Palestinian American Medical Association. You don't have to be Palestinian to be part of it. There's a lot of, not even Muslims, they're part of it. And they have been into Gaza in the last 2 months. It took a lot to get them in, but they go in and they stay for like 2 weeks because it's very tough. They cannot take it, and they stay in the hospital 24/7, and then they leave. So I know some of them that went there, and we followed through. I mean, I told them to put my name down. I'm willing to go to help them out, and obviously they can't. It's not up to them. And even they turned down some Muslims in the beginning, or Palestinian
one comment, I like to say is what we say always, or whoever dying is we say Palestinian, we say Syrians, we say Iraqi. Why we don't generalize the whole problem and say it's Sunni the one who's getting killed in the Middle East and everywhere? It's just purely Sunni Muslims. And are we shy about saying that and try to educate our young Ahmad that the one who dies here as Sunni Muslim, not just Palestinian, or the Palestinian are Sunni and the Syrian are Sunni and the Iraqi are Sunni, and the country there are actually they try to kick all the Sunni out there. Why would I say this stuff? And I'm not trying to make an agitate the situation on that, but really we need to educate our kids about this. The whole issue is Islam against others. That's it. That's the whole issue. It's nothing like it's not Israeli. It's not Israeli. It's just nothing compare actually.
Yeah.
It's West against the Muslim.
No. Very valid point. Yeah. The Prophet ﷺ, when he says, "Some Muslimun bi asma'i, Muslimun al-mu'minun ibadullah," absolutely correct. But the Prophet ﷺ also used to designate anta muhajir, anta ansari, not as a divider, but as an identifier. So when we say a Palestinian or whatever, we're merely identifying, not dividing them, because I agree these lines that were drawn in between us were drawn by such people, a Frenchman and a Britishman. So naming people doesn't necessarily mean that we're dividing them up. And, of course, it comes down to the people's intentions.
Exactly. So we have one more person after that, but let's meet and that's it, inshallah.
Okay, the situation in Gaza will take long time. It's not comparing.
You got 1 minute, inshallah, to summarize it. You got 1 minute to summarize it, inshallah. دقيقة للتلخيص يعني.
Oh, okay. Let me just talk about something important. Okay? So actually, what I think that is a practical thing to do in the United States. Practical things we do in the United States. We are doing fantastic in demonstration. But that's not enough. Because the situation that this issue is Islamic issue, is not Palestinian issue. And the Quran emphasizes that. So we have to act according to that. The Israeli took a chance that Hamas took this action, and immediately they transferred it to a way that they're going to be moving the immigration, the whole thing, and they empty the land. Okay? So actually, we as an American here, I don't care about in Egypt or in Syria or in Palestine or whatever it is. In America here, the people should really choose this here incident to make it more positive and get together at the level of the masajid of the United States. Yeah, for every masjid, if they choose some people from them and they start to make an organization that you can address the commission, they can address the Congress, they can address this will make them more important than just standing up and saying stop the
Yes.
stop the land.
Yeah, so you said the demonstration needs to be followed up with action.
And the main thing also in the same level of local here area. I mean, every city, like here in this masjid, there should be a round table for the people, the old people, who actually concern us, and they can discuss in a very mature and very respectful way to each other that what should be done. Then when they take an action and they actually put it with the United States rule, then they became more strong and became more civilized and more they can understand that really, I mean, they are very strong. I mean, the Arabs and the Muslim countries is strong, but forget about Muslim countries. I'm talking about America here, how to organize, how to do the things in a way professionally, and the old people to be involved in it, not just only children, but our young people. Okay, and this is excellent work they're doing.
Yeah.
But the old people they should be involved in, because this thing it will be staying long and will need a lot of actions and actions from here, from the United States, people of the masajid of the people of the, of Muslims in the whole area.
Okay, brother Samir. That's the last one, inshallah.
Can I
Unless
ask
somebody has a
another
question.
How, as a Muslim community,
بعد إذنك الله يبارك فيك.
Go ahead.
السلام عليكم. عندي سؤال لك كونك انت من غزه ومن غزه وبتعرف يعني كيف الناس هناك عم بيعانوا. هل تعتقد بان قرار الحرب كان صائب وبتعرف انه الطرف الثاني مدعوم دوليا باستيلاء قرارات دوليه ام هي دول اقليميه كانت لها دور لتوريط الشعب الفلسطيني باجلاءه عن ارضه؟
أخي الفاضل الحكم على الأشياء فرع عن تصورين. إحنا مش متصورين أصلا الوضع اللي كان في غزة.
If you don't mind, we will translate the question and then we will give again a chance for the sake of audience.
So his question is, was the decision that was taking place on October 7th the correct decision? I said, for us to judge something, we have to understand it. We can't judge something without first understanding it fully, and most of us are not even qualified to understand exactly what's going on in Gaza, what's going on in Palestine, this whole issue. It's very easy for us to sit back here, I'm going to use an American term, to be Monday morning quarterbacks. And so this is why this is a question that's unanswerable from where we stand. They made a decision, they defended their decision. You can go online and read their report, read their answer, and then you can try to understand the reasoning behind what they did. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Ultimately, it's about resistance. Occupation is still going on, it's been going on, and we have an obligation to resist, an Islamic obligation to resist, in whatever method we can, right? That's appropriate for the time and place that we live in. In America, of course, as demonstrated, we've been talking about what we can do here, inshallah ta'ala, as part of that resistance. But the scholars are in agreement in terms of defending your land and your honor and your dignity, and especially it's been stolen for years and years and years, and nobody cares anymore. The people who used to care stopped caring, etc. You're alone in this. It's very different, and it's very easy for us to judge.